Get me that signal. We need more power.
We are live at Gen Con 50, and I am talking with Elena Christensen from Asmodee and Fantasy Flight. And we are at the Fantasy Flight gaming booth.
Sure are.
Which is actually a huge gaming area. All kinds of things have sold out for Fantasy Flight already. Elena, could you tell me what Fantasy Flight brought along to Gen Con 50?
We brought a lot of stuff. So over the last 2 weeks, we've made a few announcements. A few are here, a few are not. Legacy of Dragonholt was the first one, which is sort of a new twist on an RPG. Next up was Fallout, which we of course do have here for demo, and watching people get their hands on that has been incredible. Our next announcement was Twilight Imperium 4th edition, which for our longtime fans was a very, very big one. We were excited to be able to sell a few at the show for early retail, and then with the wide release will be a little bit later this year. That was last week. Next week after that, we did Civilization: A New Dawn, which is kind of a twist on our previous Civilization game. Mostly new stuff, but with a few tweaks from the, your favorite elements of our original game, and it streamlines it all quite a lot. Man, so many things. Wednesday, we did the 30th anniversary edition of the West End Games Star Wars role-playing game. So that was an exciting announcement for us and for our RPG fans all over. And then Friday, at our in-flight report, we announced Star Wars Legion, which is a Star Wars ground combat miniatures game.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
That one...
What is Star Wars Legion going to be like?
So Star Wars Legion is... It's kind of a standard miniatures war game, but in the Star Wars universe. So that gives you some really cool opportunities. And it gives us some really cool opportunities for what we can work with. So the core set has 33 plastic miniatures. It's got Luke and Vader, and then a bunch of stormtroopers, and a bunch of rebel troopers. And then it's got some combat cover, some barricades. But it's really, really streamlined miniatures experience. When you move when you move your troop leader or your but when you move your leader, you move sort of all their troops with them, and instead of having to measure each and every single one, there's a very streamlined system for moving them all together as a unit, so that you don't have to worry about the nitty-gritty measure, and then something happens. You measure once, all your stuff moves, and then you get to really get into the game experience. So it's very quick, it's very fast-paced, it's very natural.
How is it different from like some of the other miniatures games, like Imperial Assault?
It's much more freeform. Imperial Assault, because it has the sort of tactical combat setup, the squares that you move along and everything, there is sort of a prescribed path. And there's also, on top of that, there's also different objective setups, kind of. So in Imperial Assault, you have to, get these 3 things, or you have to go these places, or you have to kill these people. In this one, the game starts with 4 different objectives, 4 different conditions, and 4 different combat layouts. And so the different combinations of those 3 things will make every single game very different. And because it is a free-form miniatures game, a skirmish game, you can sort of go anywhere you want on the map and do some really unique and interesting things.
Now, what is the timeline for that?
Early 2018.
Early 2018?
Yes. We've got a lot coming out for the holidays this year, including Fallout, Twilight Imperium, Legend of the Five Rings. So we're going to give Legion a little bit of room to breathe.
Well, let's talk Fallout.
Yeah.
Tell me about Fallout.
So this Fallout game kind of does everything it can to cover the entire Fallout experience in a 3-hour board game, which, as you can imagine, given that Fallout is a 60-some-hour game, and that's being conservative for some of us, it's a big challenge, but our designers did an incredible job. There's quests, there's these special skills, there's companions, all of your favorite companions from Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 are in there. You can have dog meat. Yeah, and it just covers so much. There's warring factions, which is sort of what drives the game, is that each of the 4 scenarios has 2 warring factions that you'll remember from that game. So, for example, the Commonwealth is the Raider, or sorry, I'm getting my scenarios mixed up. It is the Institute versus the Railroad, and so you are sort of fighting for the rights of the synths or against the rights of the synths, depending on who you ally yourself with. And those factions make the game semi-cooperative. So having a multiplayer Fallout experience is really exciting for a lot of people, but then this fact that you can ally with the Railroad and I can ally with the Railroad, and then that gives us sort of incentive to work together a little bit.
Is it a standard board, or does it change?
It is modular. There are, I don't remember exactly how many tiles there are, but each board is made up of about 15 tiles. 4 of them are going to be set at the beginning, and so those will be your kind of core locations like Diamond City or Megaton. But then there are kind of easy terrain areas and much more difficult terrain areas that will give you that experience of leveling up, getting bigger and better, and improving your survivor throughout the game, and then taking on bigger and better enemies. So like early on you'll hit a bloatfly, later on you'll get the Deathclaw.
So this also was basically your launch of L5R.
Yes.
And from what I've seen, it's been going great.
It has.
Tell me a little bit about how you got to translated L5R from the AEG version to the new Fantasy Flight.
Sure. Yeah, we inherited a really incredible game with L5R. We've been so grateful to work with it. It's been a couple years since we made the announcement, so finally being able to release our game was so wonderful. And to a 700-person tournament on Thursday was just mind-blowing. So bringing it over, we did maintain a few of kind of the core mechanics that AEG did that we really, really loved. But to translate it to the living card game format, we also made some changes. So it is a new game, but L5R fans who have been playing the collectible card game for years will feel really at home with this game too. They'll just see some interesting tweaks and changes that really have the Fantasy Flight flair.
Nice. Yeah, I see it is sold out.
Yes.
What kind of reactions have you been getting so far?
Really wonderful. I think everyone has been very positive. The tournament was great. We had an after party at a local restaurant afterward, and that was just full of people just recapping their experience and enjoying that. And that tournament also had some impacts on later in the year in our future L5R coverage. So it'll have some story implications, and it will also have some impact on what our merchandising at Worlds will be. So the Dragon Clan will be heavily featured at Worlds because they have earned the Emperor's favor at this event, the Kiku Matsuri.
Now let's talk a little bit about Star Wars, a role-playing game.
Yes.
I didn't even see this coming.
Yeah.
So how did this happen?
Surprise, surprise. We've been doing the Star Wars role-playing games for a while now, and we have sort of our own system, but it all started 30 years ago with, the Star Wars the role-playing game from West End Games.
This version, the West End version.
And we really want to capture the nostalgia there, so you'll see that the books and everything, which we actually have on display here at the show, they sort of have that retro style and everything. Yeah. And we didn't change that much. Really, we're just looking to get it back out there for people who have a very intense bond with that game. It's really started it all for Star Wars role players. So we're excited to bring it back and reprint.
Right. Tell me about the announcements that you guys had. I know you talked a little bit about them. Let's get a little more in.
Yeah.
A couple of games in there that I didn't know about. It was the Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones Catan. Yes, that one we announced a month and a half ago.
Okay.
That one has been a really fun collaboration. So at Asmodee North America, Fantasy Flight Games and Catan are both studios that we work with. And so to be able to bring together two things, Catan, which is sort of a pinnacle of tabletop gaming. Like the pinnacle is probably the wrong word. It is a staple. It is a staple of tabletop gaming that everybody has played Catan. Everyone has different feelings about Catan, but it's something that we really love. The mechanics are solid. It's a very easy game to get into. but also a very strategic game that you can continue to try different strategies and try to win in different ways. So to be able to bring that on board with our Game of Thrones Catan was really, really cool, and they did some interesting stuff with it. You know, it's not just Catan with Game of Thrones slapped on there. Like you have the wall, you have the wildlings coming in from the north, and you're trying to protect Westeros as a commander of the Night's Watch. So.
Yeah, I saw the wall.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
It's very thematic. It is a very different Catan game, but it does maintain sort of those core mechanics to make it really accessible.
Anything else in the Game of Thrones universe that's happening right now?
Nothing terribly particular. We did just release, I believe, the Iron Throne expansion within the last couple of months, so that's been an exciting one to come out. But you know, our LCG for that is still going strong. We've got a really wonderful community behind that. We actually have, as we do with many of our LCGs, but this one in particular, we have a lot of people in the office who play this one over lunches and stuff. So I see a lot of this one all over Fantasy Flight games during the day.
What about in the world of horror, which is my favorite?
Yes, World of Horror. So Arkham Horror, the LCG, we actually released the Path to Carcosa as an early release here at the show. So that was really exciting, a fun surprise for people to get their hands on. But that will have its wide release a little bit later on. So that one will be coming to everyone else's tabletop very, very soon. We also have the Streets of Arkham expansion for Mansions of Madness, which is very exciting. We've had 2 DLCs now, one last December, I believe, and one just came out within the last month. So if you haven't gotten to check it out, I would do that. But then Streets of Arkham will be coming in the next couple of months to be able to expand that game even further. So.
Are there any other announcements that we hadn't talked about?
Not necessarily. Let's see. Yeah, I was going to just things that are coming up. The Empire at War for Star Wars Destiny will be releasing in the next couple of months as well. Legend of the Five Rings Street date is October 5th, if people are curious. What else have we been up to? Rune Wars has been doing incredibly well. The Latari Elves just came out in the last couple weeks here and at the show here. And then the Ithiculon, which is the 4th faction of Rune Wars, will be coming out later in the year. So pretty much everything we've talked about with the exception of Legion is hitting this year, which is really exciting.
Very nice. Well, Elena, thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to me. And,
oh, thank you.
Lying.